G'day everyone, it's Bo from Growthwise. In this video, I'm going to be running through how you can set up N8N within Docker. So this will allow you to test N8N just on your local machine. You won't need an online N8N account or anything. There'll be no cost to it. It's just using existing free applications just so you can test N8N out. Before we dive into the video, I just need to let everyone know this is definitely not a permanent solution. It's just something that will allow you to actually trial the application. If you do want to roll it out fully in your business, you should look at the N8N cloud version, or you should look at the appropriate ways of self-hosting software. There is actually some security concerns if you do locally host things. So if it's something that you're not familiar with and you're unsure of how to deal with that, I would definitely recommend using the online version as opposed to self-hosting yourself. But this will allow you to set up everything to be able to just try it directly and make some decisions on whether you do want to dive in and actually get a paid version online. Before we get stuck into setting everything up, let's have a quick chat about each tool. So Docker is a system that allows you to containerize applications. So when we set up N8N later, we're going to be using Docker because it's a containerized application. Basically what that means is it's an application that's been developed, put into a container and kind of packaged up so that you can reuse it on various different machines. Next, let's take a brief look at N8N. So if you've used something like IFTTT, if this then that, or you've used Zapier in the past, we say Zapier here, I know it's kind of funny with an Australian accent. It's a very similar product. So it allows you to actually create workflows based on triggers, based on different applications to be able to perform different actions based on the automations that you set up. So this is what we're going to be running inside of Docker. Now that that's all out of the way, let's get into actually installing everything. So firstly, let's go to Docker because it's going to be the foundation of everything else that we're going to do. So go to www.docker.com and then hover over the download button and you'll get the different options. So one of the really great things about Docker is it is multi-platform. You can run it on Mac OS, you can run it on Windows, and you can run it on Linux. At the moment, the demo that I'm doing, we're on a Windows computer, so we're going to download the AMD 64 version because we're on an Intel-based or x86 instructions-based processor. So we'll click on that and then we'll just download that quickly. Now that we've got that downloaded, all we're going to do is double click on the installer to get everything kicked off. Once we've got the installer opened up, the default settings that are here are fine. If you do want to learn more about them, you can actually Google WSL2 and Hyper-V just to learn the differences, but that goes beyond what we're going to do in today's video. So the default settings, as I said, are fine. Let's click on OK. We'll let the installer keep going. All right, so we're now installing. Installation has succeeded. So that process may take a little bit of time. I did chop out parts of the video because it's not important that you watch all of that, but you can see the progress as it actually works through that install. So if you are thinking, oh, maybe it's actually frozen or anything like that, just wait. You do have to be patient whilst it actually installs that first part. Okay, we should all be installed now. So if we just go into our start menu, we'll search for Docker. It's the first thing that's come up here. So I'm just going to click on that. May again take a little bit of time on the first load, and I think we'll get a user license screen shortly that we can just read through if you want to read through it, or accept. Click on accept. And then it's going to ask you this. It says, are you using it for work or personal? So I'm pretty sure you can just skip this. So we can just skip it. You don't need to worry about doing this. Now, this is something that I didn't expect to see myself, but if you do come across this, it's probably more likely going to be on a Windows machine than anything else. You need to be able to go into your BIOS settings on your computer and actually enable virtualization. So again, it's probably a little bit beyond the scope of this video, and it's kind of hard to actually record it because it's actually the very start of your computer's boot up process to get into those menus. So if you do come across this, that is something that you will need to do to be able to actually use Docker. I've just rebooted and I've enabled SVM mode in my BIOS. If you have that same setting pop up or that issue pop up on your own Windows computer, you may need to reboot and go into your BIOS settings and enable that as well. It just allows actual virtualization, which is what Docker relies on. So let's try it again. We're going to open Docker up, and hopefully this time it should load into a point where we can just see that it's actually just opened up and ready to go. So I've clicked on it now. Here we go, starting the Docker engine. So this is what is going to run all of the applications on top of the actual engine itself. Once the Docker engine is started, you should be able to see what I've got on my screen at the moment. Basically just says there's no containers running because we haven't actually put anything in. We're not running anything, but Docker, the actual engine, is ready to go now. So we can move on to actually setting up N8N. Okay, back in Docker now, what we're going to click on is images. And then we're going to go to search images to run. And then we're going to type in N8N. and then the top one that's here. So we're going to click on run, which is basically just going to grab the container and then just start it. So you can pull it down and then you can configure it, but we're just going to click on run and that'll bring it down and start doing everything that we need to get it off the ground. So in the background now, I think I can close out of this. So you can see this is actually pulling down the image that we need to be able to run the N8N container. Next, let's take a look at the image now being downloaded. So we can see this is the official N8N image, by the way. So it's not a random one. It's actually the one that N8N provides as a Docker image directly. So we can see we've downloaded that now. We're going to click on run, and then we're going to get some settings that'll pop up. So I'm just going to run through those quickly. The first one's container name. So if you want to actually name it something so you remember what it is in the future, say if you're already using Docker and you want to make sure that it's separated from your other containers, you can definitely give it a name. For this tutorial, I'm not going to bother doing that. We'll just let Docker come up with one of its random weird names that it normally does. The next thing here where it says ports, what we do want to do is decide on a port that's actually going to be the port that we use to access N8N once it's actually spun up. So I'm just going to make that the default port, so 5678. So the way that Docker works is basically the things on the left should be your host and the things on the right should be your container. So you can see the host port being 5678 basically means that's the port we're going to expose for the containers port of 5678. For volumes, it's the same thing. What the volume is actually where the N8N data is going to be stored. So I'm just going to click on this and then go into downloads and then N8N test. Select the folder. This is where we're going to store the N8N data. And then I'm just going to say N8N underscore container as the container's path. You do need to put the slash in. If you don't, it will fail when it first tries to run. So this is all you should need. A special note though, if you are doing this, this is very much designed to be a temporary environment just for you to try things out. If you do want to roll this out fully in your business or actually on your own premises as a self-hosted application, please go and look at the appropriate ways of doing it for a permanent installation. This is not a permanent installation at all. It's just so that you can get off the ground and try out this and figure out whether it's something you do want to pursue further. So with everything set up here now, we should be able to click on run. And what that should do is we can see now, this is the random container name we've got, Naughty Chatterjee. Pretty weird and funny. It should actually try and start the container. And if it is started, we should see down here that we should now have an accessible port to be able to actually go and interact directly with N8N. If you do need to actually look at the containers themselves, you can click on the containers button up here. And from here, you can stop it and you can restart it if you need to. We shouldn't need to do that. We can go back in, check the log, see if there's any errors. These ones that are here shouldn't be a concern with what we're doing today. And we should be able to access it by clicking on this link. Well, now for the moment of truth, let's click on the link here. And if we're really lucky, everything should actually open up to our N8N instance that we've just started. And that's good. So once we're on this page, you should be able to enter in your email address, first name, last name, and a password. That's what you're going to use to get back into N8N later. So make sure you do save this somewhere. Once you've entered your email address and password, when you first log into N8N, you're going to get a window that will pop up asking you about your business. You can skip through that by just saying a business type of other and then click skip. The next window that will pop up will be about a license key for paid features for free. So if you are going to install this longer term, I would suggest getting that license key so that you can actually add it to the application and extend its functionality. But at this point, you're actually ready to try N8N. So you can actually build out your own workflow by clicking on Create Workflow, or you can see this Test a Simple AI Agent example. I'm just going to click on this quickly just so I can show you kind of the layout of it. So you can see that you've basically got a grid and you've got something happening, then you've got the trigger on the next part of it. So this is obviously just an example that you can play with, but you've also got the opportunity if you want to actually do a workflow from scratch. So if I click back to N8N here on the overview, we can leave without saving because we haven't done anything at this point. But we can just say create workflow, and then we can manually build out our steps. So if I wanted to say, okay, let's go add a step, and say I wanted to look at a particular event of an app, I can click on this, and this has got a really good starting list of different things. So say, for example, let's pick Google Drive. I could use this as a trigger. It says on changes to a specific file as a trigger. So I'll just click on that. I'm going to close out of it quickly, just go back to Canvas. And then from here, we can then actually build out another step and another step. So you get the idea. So very similar to what you would do in something like Zapier. So that's all I really wanted to cover off in this video. We're not going to go through a whole workflow building exercise. There's plenty of different things you can actually go and find and look up online for how to do that. This video is more about setting up N8N so that you can test it. That being said, now that we have done some testing, once you've actually done the different bits and pieces that you want, if you don't want this N8N instance to continue running in the background, all we need to do is jump back into Docker and then click the stop button. So that will stop it from actually being accessible. So if I jump back into the browser now, I'm just going to refresh this. You can actually see here now, we can't actually get access to that at all. And if I jump back into the Docker container again, I can click play. That should then start the container. We can click on that. We can actually see it starting back up again. And we should get to the point where, again, it says that the editor is now accessible, which it has. So if I jump back in here now and I refresh it, we should be able to actually get back into N8N itself. So that's all I wanted to go through in this video. Hopefully it's been helpful for you. If it has, make sure you leave a comment below. Cheers.